Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Linda. If you're just dropping by for the first time, you might definitely want to hang around and subscribe. On this channel, I share videos about sewing, pattern drafting, pattern illustration, sketching, and everything in between. So I'll be sharing with you guys how to make this cute wrap top today. The first thing I did was to measure the length of my crop top. So I'll be taking the length of about 20 inches and I'll be adding sewing allowance also at the end like so. So at the top, I added 0.5 inches for the shoulder slope. Now after that, the next thing I did was to take the half of my shoulder measurement. Now I'm just going to mark 8 inches like so, and this is the back bodice. Now I'm just going to be checking if the fabric is going to be enough for the wideness of my upper body. Next thing I did was to measure my vertical measurement. This is my bust point, and I will be marking my under bust as well. Now I'm just going to be rolling that the ruler. After I'm done marking with the ruler, the next thing I did was to place my tape rule upwards like so by 2 inches, and I'm just going to be going upwards like so to draft half of my armhole measurement. Now after that, next thing I did was to use my ruler and I will connect it like so. I'll be cross checking if I have 2 inches here, so I'm just going to be using my ruler to draw a line like so and draw the other line upwards. Now the next thing I did was to take a measurement for my neckline. So I'm just going to be placing my tape rule like this, and I'll be marking 2 inches. Here you can mark 1.5 inches or 2 inches, and I'll be measuring the width like this by 2.5 inches. And from there, I'm just going to be slanting the line downwards to my shoulder line to create my shoulder slope. Now next thing is to just connect the neckline using my French curve. After I am done connecting this part, I just went ahead to take the half of my armhole measurement and I'll be getting the midpoint like so, and I'll be marking that. From there, I'm just going to go inwards by 0.25 inches and I'll be using my rollers to create a curve. Now I'm just going to be using my French curve to complete the curve like so. So next thing I did was to get the quarter of my bust circumference. So my bust circumference divided by 4 plus 2 inches sewing allowance. And I'll be doing the same thing for the upper part like so. Now I'm also going to be taking the waist circumference divided by 4 plus 2 inches sewing allowance. After that, I'll just go ahead and use my ruler to connect the lines into a straight line. This is to indicate that I added sewing allowance of about 2 inches. So I'll be using that later on. Next thing is just to cut out the back piece. Now that I'm done cutting out the back piece, I'm just going to be notching this part like so, and it's time to cut out the front. Now I folded another piece of fabric and I placed them right side to right side facing each other. I just had to mark the length of my top because I'll be cutting 2 of that, and my fabric, as you can see, is way more wider than what I have for the back piece. Now I'm just going to be placing my back piece like so, and I'll be ensuring that the folded part is upon this part like this. And next thing, I'm just going to be ensuring that the lines are meeting at this point. And next I'll be getting the distance of what I have here on fold. I'm just going to be using my tape rule to check what I have. I have 10.5 inches and I'm going to duplicate it by extending it into the wider fabric that I had folded, and I'll be marking what I have. Next, I'm just going to be connecting this line like so. I'll just go ahead and bend this part like so, and I'll be connecting it to a straight line down to this part. So if you want your cleavage to be revealed, you can go down by this point, but as for me, I'll be measuring 6 inches downwards That's the depth I want my neckline to be, because I don't want to reveal my bust. So I'll be connecting this part like so down to the other parts. So I'll just use my ruler to connect the lines. Now I'm just going to use my free hand to make sure that the lines are visible enough for you guys. And the next thing to do is to check the distance of what I have. I have 6 inches. The reason why I chose 6 inches is because I don't want my bust to be revealed. By going down to this point would mean that my bust will be exposed while it is unwrapped. And now it's time to trace and cut it out through the lines I had drawn. Next, I'm just going to be placing my back piece like this, and I'll be placing my front piece on it as well, right side to right side facing each other. And I'm just going to ensure that the right sides are facing each other properly, and then I'm going to be stitching it at the shoulder at this point and at the other side as well. Next, I'll be cutting out the sleeves. So I folded another piece of rectangular fabric into 2 equal halves, and I'll be using my tape rule, and I'll measure 26 inches for my sleeve length. Okay, I'm just going to be making sure I'm cutting 2 sleeves, and I'll further go ahead and fold it one more time like so, and that's where I'll be taking the measurements for my sleeve. Now I'm just going to be placing my tape rule like so, and I'll go down and measure from the starting line like so, and I'll be measuring 5 inches for my sleeve cap. I'll be marking that. Next, I'll just connect with my ruler, and from there I'm going to be taking the half of my armhole measurements, which is 8, and I'll be adding 1 inch to it for the sewing allowance. Next, I'm just going to go ahead and slant it like so to this point with my ruler. After that, I'm just going to be getting the midpoint for this line. I'll be checking the distance, and I'll be getting the midpoint with my tape rule. I have another video on how to draft a basic sleeve. You can go ahead and check it out in one of my videos in my channel. The link is under the description box as well. So I'll be making sure to connect this part using my French curve, and I'll be flipping it to connect the upper part. This is for the front armhole. Now I'll be drawing the back armhole like so, and I'll be connecting the rest of the curve downwards. Next thing I did was to smoothen out the lines, and from here I'm going to be slanting my hand towards the end of the fabric into this part, and I'll be making a slant line for my bishop sleeves. And I'm just going to be cutting out the back piece first of all. Now I'm just going to go ahead and open up the sleeves like this, and I'll be cutting out the front armhole. This should be the front, and here is going to be the back. Next is just to go ahead and I'll be attaching it into my piece, which I joined at the shoulder. This is the front and the back bodies. I'm just going to be aligning my sleeves like this around the armhole. I'll be placing the right side to right side facing each other. Then I'll be pinning it with my pins to secure it in place before stitching at this part and on the other part. Next, I'm just going over to my machine, and I'll be stitching this part, and I'll be doing the same thing for the other part as well. And after that, I'm just going to go ahead and hem the sleeves. I'll be folding it into 2 to hem it, and I'll be inserting my elastic band like so. Next, I place the back piece like this just to insert and include my dart. and I'll be extending the bust line and then the bust line up across the other side. Next, I'm just going to be getting the midpoint from the notch I made earlier, and I'll be reeling that all the way to the top. Now I'm just going to go ahead and check what I have here. I'm going to be including my bust span. So my bust span divided by 2 is what I'm marking here on both sides. After that, I went ahead to add 1 inch at the top like so, and I'll be doing the same thing at the other side. Now it's time to roll the lines. At this point, I'll be marking 0.5 inches on both sides for the darts. Then I'll be connecting my roller. Now I'm done stitching the darts, and this is how it's looking like. I'm still going to go ahead and I'll insert my elastic band into the sleeve. I'm just going to be wrapping the band around my wrist to check the amount of band I needed for the sleeve. And now it's time to pass it through the sleeve casing. After that, I went ahead to place my fabric like this just to stitch the sides. I'll be marking from the armhole, and I'll be stitching at 2 inches mark I made earlier, and from there I'll also go ahead and stitch at 1 inch slantly like this, and I'll be repeating the same thing for the other parts of the sleeve. Next thing I did now is just to go ahead and close the neckline. You can choose to add a bias. I'll be folding this part like twice, and I'll be sewing from this end like this all the way around down to this part. Now I'm done with the sides, the sleeves and the neckline, and this is what I have for the sleeve. This is how it's looking like. Now this is the neckline. This is how the inner part is looking like. Next thing I did is to cut out a belt for it. Now I'm just going to be aligning some pieces of fabric that I'm supposed to throw away, and I'll be using that to make a belt. This is how it's looking like. I'm just going ahead to ensure that they're equal, and you can choose to make this longer if you want to. I'll be attaching my belt at the sides of the wrap itself. I'll just go ahead and I'll place one of the belts like this on the right side, and I'll trim out the excess parts. Stitch it and top stitch on it again, and I'm just going to do the same thing for the other side as well. Now this is my cute wrap top. This is how it's looking like. If you enjoyed this video, kindly give me a thumbs up and tell me what you think in the comment section, and I'll be seeing you guys later. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll be the first person to get a notification each time I upload a new content. Also, share this video to your friends and those who might like it as well. See you guys in my next video. Bye for now.